What is going on, everybody, man? King Recon here. I'm recording this Afterthoughts early this week, like extremely early. So I apologize if one of you commented something that I found very interesting that I would love to talk about in one of the Afterthoughts, or whatever the case may be. If I missed out on something important, the reason why I missed out on it is because I'm recording this on the same day, which I almost never do for the Afterthoughts, because I'm just not going to be able to do that this weekend. So I'm recording that today because there's a lot of stuff that I've found upon my research. So as y'all know, or if you watched the reaction where I was asking, like, is there any type of play that has any of these themes that could make it to where we're gonna have this payoff for what's happening here with the Orochi, Kanjuro, Kiku, and Kinemon stuff, and why we have had these fake outs so far. And I found two very interesting stories upon my research, man. So the first one was brought up this week in the tale of the Heike. As you saw within the chapter, if you go all the way up to the top with the impermanence of all things, it is a quote from the opening verse of the epic poem Heike Monogatari. So when we go back to the tale of the Heike, it is an epic account compiled prior to 1330 of the struggle between the Taira clan and the Minamoto clan for control of Japan at the end of the 12th century in the Genpei War. Now, one thing that caught me out of all the things that I read within, studying the tale of the Heike, is that the story is divided into 3 sections. And it got me thinking about the Kabuki act play structure and what have you, because as I continue to look at some of these while trying to find some more, there was another one that I found, which is the one I'm going to talk about here in a second, that has 11 acts. So it doesn't have to be 5 acts. The reason why Act 3 is so long is because it could very well be only 3 acts. But I'm going to hold off on that thought until what we see next week, because I've been told so many times that 1031 is a very important thing, and that could very well end up being the end of the act. And I'm going to believe in my people and what they have to say. So we're going to hold off and see if next week the act truly does up ending, because the end of this week's chapter truly did feel like we're ending the act chapter. You know what I mean? Or especially with the sequences of the Monster Trio fighting, seeing where Marco and Kawamatsu and them, CP0 getting out, like, it felt like the end of an act. So, very curious on how Oda decides to handle that for specific portion. Imagine ending the act on Luffy saying, Gear 5th, or Awakening, you know what I mean? Because now, especially after this week's chapter with the whole Awakening concept, that could very well end up being a thing. But above everything else that interested me here in regards to structure was that, the story being roughly divided into 3 sections. And the fact that the opening verse of the poem that was the title of this week's chapter has that in that, it just fascinated me. So that aside, let's go ahead and go on to the other play that I want to be talking about here today. And that is the Japanese thing of this is Kanade-han Chushingura, which, whenever it's translated into English, it is the treasury of loyal retainers, simply known as Chushingura. It's an 11-act kabuki play that began as a bunraku puppet theater production. It is one of the 3 kabuki greats, and it is based on the popular tale of the 47 Ronin, the masterless samurai. Now, this is the important part here, who seek revenge for the murder of their master and then all commit suicide at the same time as punishment for their crime. So the full title literally means Kana Practice Book Treasury of the Loyal Retainers. So the thing that interests me the most about this particular concept of having the masterless retainers, we have trying to get revenge for somebody who died, trying to get revenge for their master, is that we see that happening within this arc. But the most fascinating part about this is how the story ends in the original Chushingura, and all of them dying, paying for it as a punishment, right? But we know that that was the main goal of the main antagonist of this arc in Kaido. And so it really got me thinking about what's going to happen with the Scabbards and Kaido and Kanjuro and everyone on both sides that are important to this. You know, Orochi, Kanjuro, Kaido, and the Scabbards. Everybody with that deep connection to Odin. The tale of the masterless samurai. It just really got me thinking about how this arc is going to end. Because, like I was saying in the reaction, if Oda is truly planning on having characters like Kiku, Kinemon, Kanjuro, Orochi die at the end anyway, then there would have to be some sort of emotional payoff at the end of the arc, some sort of lesson, some sort of thing that ties together everything in the arc. Whether it be a theme or whatever it may be, something has to tie it all together. And so, what about if that's it? What about if when we look back at how we started Kaido's journey, with him attempting to fall off of Sky Island, to just be done with it? Then, now we ask ourselves, what if Kaido finishes off this arc attempting to live? You know, attempting to fight off for survival against Luffy. Finally being in front of somebody who can actually take him out. But he finds something else that he wants to live for. But at the same time, he has lines like, death completes a person. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm just so curious on the way that his arc is going to end. But you catch my drift, right? To where their ending is what Kaido's looking for as an ending within the play. So then, with the Scabbards, is Oda planning on having them all die at the end together in a blaze of glory? I mean, this is a one-way ticket for all of them, for most of them. But that's just crazy to me. Like, I don't know, especially with what's going on now. I want to know Oda's thought process in regards to executing stuff in the way that he has so far, especially when it comes to those 4 characters. Like, what is the payoff going to be that has allowed all of this to happen in the way that it has? Because it is extremely just, you see it, it's like a repetition. It's like you almost expect it, right? At least I most certainly expected it. When I saw Kinemon get off in the last episode, I was like, that man ain't dead. That man ain't dead. Kaido is savage, but it just didn't feel like he was dead. And so I do wonder if Oda's playing off that right now. Like, he knows the expectations. He knows the way that he's told the story so far. So now we just wait for the answer of why. Why do it in this way? Why have these countless fake outs knowing that we are going to continue to question whether they are actually alive or dead? Not having the full appreciation of the moment having before you, like not being able to immerse yourself in the fact that one of these characters could be dead. I'm just very, very curious, because I've heard the excuse before about, this is a children's story, so it shouldn't be, taken as seriously when it comes to characters being alive or dead and whatnot, and I completely understand that. But in Oda's case, who has always been on point when it comes to delivering on payoff, there's things that have to lead into that payoff in order to make you feel that. And so, because I've never seen anyone handle something like this in this type of way, I'm so interested, especially with Wano, something he's had in mind for so long. I just can't wait to see what the payoff to all of this is going to end up being, specifically on the Scabbard side of things now. Because it's like, man, now, especially with what I was talking about in the chapter reaction with Kanjuro and Yamato, now that's going to be a very interesting scenario, and I can't wait to see that play out for sure. Orochi, we're all, thinking is going to get waxed by, Hiyori, Momo, or Zoro, or whatever. But at this point, it's looking to be Hiyori, because Momonosuke is going to be holding up the island and whatnot. But it's like, man, but when it comes to Kiku and Kinemon, I'm just so like I can't wait to see how he ends up wrapping all of that up. And if it is an execution thing, if it is a constant fake outs until it actually happens, and then we wish it was a fake out. Like, is it going to be is it going to end up being one of those things to where we get so many fake outs in a row that when the actual thing starts happening before our very eyes, we're not going to be, and we can't do anything about it. We're going to be like, man, this is what it was all towards. Because let's just say, hypothetical situation, we do get a scenario where all the Scabbards die at the end. We see like they're ghosts going off into the sunset. They have fulfilled their mission. They fulfilled their duty. It's like, bro. I don't know. I'm so curious, though. I'm so curious as to his decision because I just don't know. I don't know if he wants to keep them alive at the end of the arc. Because we know that Kinemon, of course, would to meet up with his wife again. All these characters can have a future within Wano, and it would be great to have them, after all these years of suffering, finally be able to live in peace and see the new era with their own two eyes. But then why do it in this way? I'm filled. That's why I want to see the payoff first before we discuss this any further, because it's all going to depend on the payoff, man, on how this ends up going out, right? Especially with Oda. There's always a method to his madness, no matter how it, because you won't be able to see it now, but when the time comes, you're like, oh, Flagnards. As people who have been reading this series for so long, we know that's always been the case. So I want to see it, man. I want to see what he has in mind, payoff wise, for what's happening here with the Scabbards. And then switching over to Kid and Law to finish this off, man. Goodness gracious. Awakening, son. Awakening. And it's like, seeing the crew with the anesthesia all by itself was like, yo. And then the shockwave, finally being able to see Awakening within the supernovas. Especially when it comes to Law and Kid, because that they were going to need everything in their arsenal in order to take on Big Mom. And this is what we were looking forward to seeing, because you need the two of them to be going all out. This is a Yonko, this is Big Mom, and you need this to feel like a true threat. So what better way than to have Big Mom smack this man Kid once again doing the same thing that he did back in 1009, and taking the damage in order for Law to be able to be able to do something. And this week we saw that. We saw Kid taking the full brunt of the damage, so Law could sneak in from behind and do damage to Big Mom, and then that would allow Kid himself to be able to do damage too. So now that they've awakened, now that we see the awakening parts of their fruit, at the very least on Kid's side, because I'm not sure if we're going to see this from Law, but on Kid's side, who I'm sure we're going to see the Conqueror's coding from, if we are to believe that Kid and Luffy are going to come out of this as equals in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of the readers, then we're going to have to see Kid utilize Conqueror's coding here against Big Mom. And I do wonder if that is going to be one of the major catalysts if Big Mom ends up getting defeated here, is Conqueror's coding with Awakening. Because Kid utilizing this as a sign, right? Let's just say that he is able to do, because we've talked about this before in regards to Yasop and Shanks' crew, and why they do feel like as big of a threat as they do. And that is because of the possibility of using Conqueror's coding and coating your weapons, and then striking. Let's just say you coat a bullet in Conqueror's coding. How dangerous is that, right? But in Kid's case, if you were to use this as a sign ability, and all the metal coming in, or specific parts of metal, are coated in Conqueror's coding, then bro, it's gonna be dangerous. It's gonna be nasty. Just imagine that, right? That's a filthy behind ability. But I'm so curious. Man, they're gonna knock some people out. Conqueror's coding clashes. And Law, bro, yeah, that room ability has always been filthy, but being able to do what he did this week was nasty. Just a Super Saiyan 2 version of Counter Shock with Shockwave there, being able to truly damage Big Mom internally, all over the bodies, he stated. And they covered it in that anesthesia type of thing to where, it's harmless. Yo, it was so good. Kroom. Not room, Kroom. And it's like, dang. Awakening, man. And then, like I said earlier today, it really leads to the question of, does that mean Luffy's awakening this arc? Are we finally able to see the awakening? I mean, Luffy, everything that he has in his arsenal as of this point in time that he can use, he's gonna have to use against Kaido. There's nothing he can leave to save for somebody else. There is no saving against Kaido. You know what I mean? Like, he has to go completely all out, utilize everything in his arsenal. So I do wonder if he accidentally awakens here against Kaido, and we see that for the first time. Because I can most certainly see that being the case. And then what about Kaido himself? Because we still don't really understand that. The other conversation we had the other day was about the awakening when it comes to the Zoans and the six, right? The Tobiropo, the flying six, and like wanting to figure out awakening on that end. Why didn't any of them awaken? Do they just not have it? But in regards to Luffy, he has to have it. He just doesn't know how to use it yet. Because we saw what Kid and Lost it this week. They said that they have used it before, but it takes up a lot of energy. And they're going to make Gear 4th in a sense, right? So whatever this awakening is for Luffy, Gear 4th already takes up a lot of energy. Conqueror's coding takes up a lot of energy. All this stuff. So just imagine on top of that awakening, this man Luffy's not going to be able to move for a week after this stuff is over, if he truly is going to awaken within this arc, which it looks like I said, if Kid and Law did it, Luffy's by himself. He's got to do it, man. He has to do it, dude, at this point. So, interesting stuff. 1031 is going to be an interesting one because for a long time that has been, and then we also have a cover page next week, and Yonko Productions stated that it's going to be celebrating the approach to the climax, if I'm not mistaken. Like the anticipation of the climax of Wano. So with that being said, what that tells me is next week's chapter is going to be a big one in regards to propelling us forward into the future. If we're getting the cover, if we're getting the color spread, and we're getting that tagline, it means something huge, something major is happening in that chapter in regards to one of the big parties going down of either Queen or King going down maybe next week, or a shift in what's going on. The end of the act is a very big possibility. It's been talked about for weeks. Of that 1031 will be the end of the act, so I'll be looking forward and to seeing if that ends up being the case. But it looks like something big is going to happen next week to propel us into the final stage of Wano. So I want to know what that is, especially with the way that everything went this week. It definitely looks like this arc is spiraling down towards its conclusion, and just to be able to see the next catalyst in that next week is going to be interesting. Because like I said, it has been speculated for quite some time that 1031 specifically is going to be something big for this arc. So, and it looks to be factual, just based on what we've gotten as a preview for next week. So, looking forward to that, man. But I will see y'all next. Everybody has an awesome day. Let me know what y'all thought about this week's chapter once again. If you found anything out in regards to like the plays or anything, or want to add on to any of that, I would love to read about that in the comment section below. But until next time, y'all have an awesome day. Take care. One Piece greatness. He just continues to bring these chapters that I just can't stop thinking about, and concepts, right? Like I want to know more about the creative process behind what he's doing here. And then also in regards to the story itself, the awakening. Like, man, what more are we about to see from Law and Kid when it comes to awakening? We're about to see some Big Mom, because Big Mom going all out. Ooh, we're about to see some crazy stuff from Big Mom, man. Oh man, you know what I mean? It's gonna be crazy. and all the fights. But yo, if the act ends next week, oh my god, bro! And we see if the act ends next week, and November is end of act stuff or like post act stuff in our transition. Oh my god, bro! Shanks, Sabo, like come on, man, Shanks, Sabo, BB. Hancock, Mihawk, like yo, it's gonna be crazy. But yo, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Like I said, the tale of the haiku was split into 3 sections. You know what I mean? So is then we have the 11 acts completely played. So we have no idea how many acts are gonna be here, man. We don't know if Act 3 is truly the last act. So, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yo, you have an awesome day. Take care. Sweet flag nerds, man. We're spiraling down, man. We're spiraling down.